back to Relaxing Motorcycle Videos. I'm your host, Dennis. We are at the 2026 Four Races in Los Angeles Hare and Hound District 37 Racing Senior Lightweight Novice. Let's go. I got a great jump out the gate here, but I had a lot of trouble shifting up. This Hare and Hound ran a slightly different start format in that there was a line for each class racing. So I think it's something as many as 40 start lines. My class was combined with the class in front of me, which was an intermediate class. And while I did manage to get a jump on a few of them off the line, a lot of them started to pass me and catch up. If you haven't checked out one of my videos before, my goal these are to really provide some feedback for myself so I can continue to improve, but then also to help others potentially get into this. So I'm going to gear a lot of my commentary again towards helping beginners and people that haven't done this before increase their confidence to come out and try these along with me. So just one more comment on the start. I think it's important to remind folks that the start doesn't matter too much if you're a bit of a beginner. It's really more about being a consistent and steady rider, and you'll catch people out in the course, that maybe have better starts than you, but you just end up better endurance or just better riding technique. Another interesting thing about this start is there was kind of a trail. Most bomb starts are unmarked areas that you kind of have to pick across a mile area and try to make it into the chute where the trail begins. This, you'll see as I approach it, there's a bunch of guys with flags, so it's kind of hard to figure out if they're directing you towards a trail or trying to let you know of some obstacles going up there. So again, unusual. I slowed down a little bit to try to navigate it, but quickly on the trail here and ready to get going. So again, in my search for the perfect bike setup for me, I did make quite a few number of changes to my bike before this race, and I'm going to talk to those as well. The first and foremost one were changes to my suspension. I'm going to leave the settings that I ended up with in regards to my clickers in the comments below. So I'm running WP AER XACT and the WP linkage suspension. I managed to find a much better combination than I had been using in the past. A lot higher on the compression and rebound that I was using previously. So with going higher on the compression, it allows me to be a little bit more compliant through the rocks, that my suspension just absorbs when it's going into a rock, but then it quickly rebounds and helps me to be ready for the next rock in front of that. And so you see some of the sections going through the whoops, and again on these rocky stuff, that my suspension is just much more compliant, and I'm a lot more confident on it now running it. This race overall on the Loop 1 was a fairly fast race. We had some good rain a couple days before, which made the soil a little bit more moist, gave some really nice traction, but just overall this course layout were a lot of fast sections. There you can see me making room for some guys behind me. So again, what you heard me say about this being a faster course, and these aren't the fast sections yet, they're coming up. You have to really decide how fast you want to go here. I mean, for somebody like me that's still really getting my feet wet, getting more confident in my bike, not too confident going very fast, but a lot of this race for me was in 4th gear into 5th gear. I think my average moving speed, my GPS was around 22 miles per hour, but my max speed was 60 somewhere. So that's practically freeway speeds. I'm not the most confident doing that. There's too large of a risk. Again, I don't have enough hours on this bike. But I did manage to complete this 40 miles Loop 1 section in an hour and 45 minutes, which is right in my goal of making sure I complete Loop 1 in under 2 hours. This is a fun section here. There was a lot of rocks exposed as well with the rain. This area of California in Spangler Hills tends to have some really nice features, good mix of all terrains. So yeah, really great conditions here. You can kind of see that darker line there just to indicate to you how nice this sand and the soil is. Gives you a little bit more traction, but could still take you out if you're not ready for it and you're overly confident. There is a section in one of the washes later on in the video where I do lose the front end. Did my Chase Sexton finest and ditched the bike. Just pulling over to let somebody by. Hello, go get it. Another change that's worth calling out early, I added a flywheel weight. For me, it really helps to make up for how hard it can be to really keep this two-stroke on the pipe. I could be a lot lazier and run gears a bit taller. You'll notice on some of the hill climbs coming up, it's just more of a tractor-like feeling. And with these two strokes, they're snappy, so the flywheel helps to smooth things out. It almost makes it feel like a bit of a four-stroke. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to leave me a comment. I'm happy to tell you how I ended up here and what I might recommend. I might try to do a bit of a wild pass there. Luckily, no incident, but there's a whole lot more room to pass there. Anyway, I might try to make a more specific video on just this topic to help anyone out that might be interested. Let me know. Another change to discuss. So I'm still trying to find a better triangle for myself to help relieve the bit of back pain I'm getting and just help me maintain the attack position longer. So first thing I did was change my bars. I'm now running the Pro Taper CR highs. Gives me about an extra inch of rise there for a taller guy like myself. It seems to be helping. I also changed my grips to the ODI gray soft compounds. They're the Rogue single plies and they have a larger grip diameter. I guess the idea was to provide extra padding and I guess make it ride more comfortable, but I really did not like this change. It actually made it harder for me to grip the bike, so I'm gonna go back to what I was riding before. I think just really like a narrow grip. Wasn't prepared for that. Usually those transitions are a bit smoother.
Thank you.
One thing I still struggle with and am thinking about is keeping my front wheel light. I do stand on the balls of my feet, but maybe it has to do somewhat with my rear sag, or just again my body position isn't quite right, that I don't quite feel like I'm skipping across the rocks as much. It might also be something because this is an air spring. I don't quite have the right PSI. If you have any tips or comments how to really work on this, I think really I'm just going to try to hit the track and maybe even sign up for some riding clinics. But dirt bikes are not bicycles. They're like 200 and some pounds, so it's just still not obvious. I want more of that bicycle feeling to be able to control and skip across things better, but yeah, it's taken me a minute to get that. I've talked enough about yet was upgrading my rear spring. I was riding a 42 in the earlier videos and earlier races. The last race, Desert MC, is my first race. Upgrading to a 48 newton meters, that's like an increase of about 40 pounds of weight resistance. I had no idea it was so understrung. If you're a beginner, pay attention to this first. Factor in the weight, especially if you're doing a Hare and Hound, of carrying all this extra gear. Like I have a backpack with a liter of water in it, tools in case I break down, you know, a couple snack bars for emergencies, stuff like that. Make sure you can get your sag into the right specs with all of that weight on top of your bike. If you're cranking down all the preload on your rear shock and there's little left, you need to upgrade springs. Yeah, so I'd say probably 60% of the race were big open sections like this. Definitely have to keep your eyes out still for, you know, potentially some rocks or some bigger bumps or holes in there, but this was a lot of fun. Again, having the suspension tuned in for the first time for me really made it just fantastic. I did edit out a lot of this content later in the video for you folks, but just listen to this KTM two-stroke eat this up in 4th and 5th gear. It just sounds too good. Accidental roosting of the checkpoint crew. No, I have no idea if that really happened. that was my only fall of the race. Luckily, not bad at all. That sand can be tricky though. It's loose, it's sometimes deeper in sections than others, and if you don't have your body positioning right, it can easily wash out. rocks to navigate there, but really nothing bad at all. Go check out some other guys' videos of Loop 2s. I mean, the rocks are 10 times the size. Still, I really appreciated that the people that created this Loop 1 did throw us into some of that semi-technical stuff. It definitely helps us get more experience and get more comfortable. But overall, this 40-mile Loop 1, man, what a dream. The way it just throws you right back into this fast stuff. Super fun. I really enjoyed it. tractor climb. Hard to tell, but this is some really loose rocks here, sliding out all over the place.
okay?
I did get stuck behind this individual for, I think, a couple miles. You can hear them stalling out there. There's a little rock they're having trouble getting over. This thing was crazy. It's like zero traction in this wet, deeper sand. Yeah, really loose climbing this one. appropriate desert wardrobe right there. back on it, this might have been where I got up into the 60s. But even still, you'll see somebody come up and take a pass on me. Really impressive. That guy was flying. the end. I think the final hill climb, and then just a quick descent into the finish line. Thank you for watching. Thank you to everyone in the 4 races in Los Angeles for arranging this. It was a really great Loop 1, and look forward to doing it again next year.
Great job. Here's your finisher spin.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice race. It was well fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys did a great job.
There you go.
Fun is fun. That's all that matters.